I'm Melissa. Welcome to today's webinar, The Implications of Technology and Social Media for Domestic Violence and Family Court Cases. Please feel free to use the chat box to ask questions. Rachel does have a full program. We're going to try to keep the questions at the end if we can, but if there's something that is immediate and time sensitive or something, we might take a look at it, and I'm going to monitor that chat. The end of the session, please follow the directions that were sent in today's email for the online attendance certificate process. Please fill out the evaluation, whether you're applying for CE credits or not. Our certificate of attendance for financial neutrals and mental health professionals will be included in the evaluation confirmation. And if you have called in, please send an email to the office with the phone number you are using so your attendance can be verified. And for our attending attorneys, okay, get ready for this. The first code of today's program for the CLE credit is technology. So it's technology for the first code. So it's my pleasure to introduce Rachel Howitz, the Territory Development Manager of Our Family Wizard. And since 2016, Rachel has educated judges, attorneys, and family law professionals in the US and internationally on online tools that improve and monitor parental communication in family law cases. And she currently serves as the president of the AFCC Minnesota, and she's calling us from Minnesota. How's the weather there? Okay.
A little chilly, but it's supposed to be warm today in the 60s, so that's
Oh,
good.
wow. That's better than New York, maybe. Okay. And sits on several committees and holds a BFA, which is really cool, from the Minneapolis College of Art and Design. So please welcome Rachel Howitz to our presentation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, everyone. Well, yeah, definitely. It's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, so I'm definitely working throughout New York now. So our other judicial educator and practitioner educator, she is out on maternity leave, Lindsay, if you know her. So I'm really excited to help out with New York just because I used to live there years ago in Queens, in Astoria. And yeah, I'm just, excited. Family law is really something that I'm passionate about, being with Our Family Wizard for almost 10 years. I took the mediation course through AFCC, so I'm a qualified neutral here in Minnesota. So yeah, very, just in awe of everything that all of you do for families throughout the state. So today, we're not necessarily talking so much about Our Family Wizard, although I will go over a couple of updates. But today we're talking about basically the way that abusers are using technology to abuse their victims. Um, Obviously, in collaborative law, you may have been working with families that are a little less conflict, but maybe you are working with families in other, case types or litigation, things like that. But this is also good information for just you in your personal lives as well. So this course was actually developed by my colleague, Stephen Bradley, who is former FBI. So he used to catch cyber criminals and helped educate the FBI on how to catch those cyber criminals. And so he's been all over the world. He actually works for us now, providing that education for family law practitioners, judicial officers on how to protect victims and survivors and themselves throughout the country and throughout the world now. And he does big conferences where he is like the keynote speaker and everything. So he basically developed this course as sort of a broad overview of all of his courses. He has about, I don't know, 15 or so courses where he goes into like great detail into a deep dive into each of these different subjects, like, social media and things like that. But this is kind of a nice overview. So we did actually discuss maybe even having Stephen come back and do a deeper dive. So if you have some specific interest in each one of these topics, we can definitely have him come back and do kind of a longer session.
That would be
But
great.
this is a really great, yeah, definitely. Yeah, this is a really great course to just kind of get a just a general understanding about what's out there, what's being used. So I kind of like to set the stage first and just say, the comparison between victims and offenders. So for victims, technology-related crimes are often made out to be sort of a mental health crisis, right? Like, oh, she's crazy or he's crazy, or there's no possible way that things could be happening like that, right? However, when you break it down into real world language and self-reflection, like these, people and partners probably liked each other at one point, right? They may have even been in love. They know a lot of information about each other, right? So they know information like what school they went to, favorite color, favorite sporting team, what kind of car they drove in high school, all of those sort of security question kind of answers, right? So if they know those sorts of answers, they may still be able to get access into online accounts. And so we often tell survivors to change their passwords, but not necessarily their security questions. So we definitely hear about some of these sort of heartbreaking cases where this is one case in particular where we heard about a case where there was a divorce or separation, right? The perpetrator parent had moved out of the family home. There were some allegations, and Child Protection Services was called basically, and so they were coming to the family home to do a home visit. And the perpetrator parent had called CPS and said, or called all of the utilities, so called the electricity company, the water company, and was able to answer all of those security questions. He was able actually to shut everything off. So when
Mhm.
CPS came to do their visit, that parent was basically looked like an unfit parent, essentially. So those are some of the real world examples that we're talking about here. And as for the offenders, it's statistically less than 10% of these offenders have any type of computer background. They're what is known as keyboard warriors, right? Where they simply just Google, how do I stalk my partner or how do I do things technology wise? And you would be amazed at some of the resources that are available out there. YouTube videos, websites like Reddit, all of those things are sort of ways that other offenders are empowering each other, right? So I'm going to show you a couple of those examples along the way. But why do we need to care about technology and family law? So the widespread of availability of technology and the ease of maintaining anonymity online has increased the opportunity for stalking, and this technology abuse in domestic abuse cases, family law cases in recent years. Because women and other survivors, our clients, are using technology to communicate with others. They're in their personal lives, in their jobs, to find resources, support, because abusers, sex offenders, stalkers, pedophiles, batterers, and other perpetrators are misusing that technology against their victims. Also, because society is using technology to collect and disseminate information even when victims aren't. For example, putting court records, other voter records on the internet, putting sensitive information in large databases, right? And then, as family law practitioners, a sound understanding of the risks and benefits of technology is going to be paramount in protecting your clients from harm. So, what does the law say? So, for New York, there is a statute, stalking in the fourth degree. So, I went to this website, and there's like a picture map where you can actually just click on each state, and it will show you the exact cyber stalking laws for every state. So, when you click on New York, this is what comes up. So, a person is guilty of stalking in the fourth degree when he or she intentionally and for no legitimate purpose engages in a course of conduct directed at a specific person and knows or reasonably should know that such conduct is likely to cause reasonable fear or material harm to the physical health, safety, or property of such person, a member of such person's immediate family or third party with whom such person is acquainted, or causes material harm to the mental or emotional health of such person where such conduct consists of telephoning, initiating communication or contact with such person, a member of such person's immediate family or third party, and is likely to cause reasonable fear that his or her employment, business, or career is threatened, and so on. So I'm not going to read the whole thing. You can definitely go on the website and read the entire thing. But this is, really helpful information, and definitely knowing that stalking in the fourth degree is a Class B misdemeanor. So really helpful if you're working in other states as well. You can go to that website. There is, sort of a national, we've kind of compiled all of those cyber stalking laws into one sort of main definition, just because most of them say sort of the same thing. But the defining characteristics of stalking and cyber stalking are the same, but the methods are sort of different, right? So engaging in a course of conduct to communicate or to cause to be communicated directly or indirectly, words, images, or language by or through the use of electronic mail or electronic communication directed at or pertaining to a specific person, to access or attempt to access the online accounts or internet connected home electronic systems of another person without that person's permission, causing substantial emotional distress to that person and serving no legitimate purpose. So, California first recognized cyberstalking in 2008, and the rest of the country sort of adopted that by 2012. And this course of conduct sort of breaks down to two or more events, right? So if you can prove or articulate two or more events, you may be able to substantiate a criminal case to go along with your civil or divorce case. And stopping for a moment on that substantial emotional distress, that means mental distress, mental suffering, mental anguish, as demonstrated by a victim's response to an act, including but not limited to seeking psychotherapy, losing sleep or appetite, being diagnosed with a mental health condition, experiencing suicidal ideation, or having difficulty concentrating on tasks, resulting in a loss of productivity. So, substantial emotional distress that may be different for every person, right? What causes me distress may not be the same as what causes you distress. But if you can sort of substantiate those, you may be able to, sort of have that criminal element to go along with your divorce case if needed. So a couple of real world examples here, and just to kind of have a few sort of a mini quiz here are these examples of cyberstalking. So example one, over the course of 5 years, a woman receives hundreds of messages from an anonymous account imploring her to self-harm. These span across different social media platforms. When she blocks an account, another is created using a different username. Is that cyberstalking? Example two, a man contacts a public figure via Instagram. He likes and comments suggestively on all of her posts and has sent more than 100 private messages in 12 months. He has also sent gifts of flowers, chocolates, and stuffed animals to her place of work. Her team has asked him to stop, but he has not. Is that cyberstalking? And example three, a man gives his girlfriend a pair of AirPods for Christmas and connects them to his iPhone in order to track her movements. Is that cyberstalking? Um, the answer is yes to all of those, obviously. And some of them are a little bit, maybe even feel like kind of a gray area to some of your victim survivors, right? Because they may not know that some of these things are indeed cyberstalking, right? So like gifts and like a flower on your car, those sorts of things, when in conjunction with some of these other things, private messages and unwanted gifts, that is part of the conversation too, right? Also, AirPods, that's another way of stalking someone. So that's a very common thing, and actually one of the most common ways that we're seeing parties stalking each other now is through AirPods because it's a very common gift. It's a very easy way to do that when you just add it to your Track My Devices, app. So the person that's giving the gift can add it to their phone tracker device, and then they can see where the other person is moving, even after they separate or divorce, right? Um, so the connection to intimate partner violence. So control and isolation. So cyberstalking can be used by an abusive partner to control and isolate their victim. By monitoring their online activity, the abuser can track the victim's interactions, they can restrict communication with friends and family, they can exert a significant level of control over their daily life. Threats and intimidation. So abusers may use cyberstalking tactics to issue threats, both online and offline. The constant barrage of harassing messages and threats can create an environment of fear and submission within the relationship. Digital manipulation. So abusive partners may manipulate or coerce their victims through the use of explicit images, videos, or private information. This digital coercion can be used to maintain dominance and silence their victim. And then there's also revenge porn. So in some cases, abusers resort to sharing explicit images or videos of their victims without consent, a cruel act known as revenge porn. This can not only inflict emotional harm, but can also have severe legal consequences as well. I know my colleague Stephen does kind of a deep dive in terms of like the dark web and how like abusers can actually elicit the help from total strangers to help abuse their victims as well, and pay them in like Bitcoin and whatnot. So it goes much deeper than that. Um, so how is intimate partner cyberstalking carried out? So people who cyberstalk may use a range of online and offline technologies. So we don't have time to get into the details about all of these, but again, this broad overview is helpful just to kind of touch on some of these. So the first is GPS trackers, so technology that uses satellites to monitor a victim's movements. Key loggers, that's a form of malware or hardware that, keeps track and records keystrokes as you type. Hidden cameras or webcams, location-based dating apps, email hacking, spyware, which we'll get into in a moment. So Find My Device and services and social media. So some of those we'll get into today. And just to reiterate, this is not meant to scare any of you. Knowledge is power, obviously. So just this is not meant to like strike fear in your heart or make you want to throw your phone away or anything like that. But it is here to help you to have that knowledge so that you can help your victims and survivors. So, not a new concept, but technology is changing rapidly, right? So people, businesses, governments are all becoming more dependent on technology, social media, other online systems. At the same time, cyberstalking is becoming a significant and growing social problem. Laws and education around technology are sort of failing to keep up. So technology enables people who stalk to infiltrate deeper into their victims' lives. People, may be targeted in unfamiliar ways, sometimes without their knowledge. So this risk is likely to increase as technology continues to advance. Many of you will remember, dial-up internet, right? And the growth to DSL and cable. Now we have super fast internet speeds. Our cell phones. Remember, we all remember the brick phones and the bag phones that you used to have to plug into your car. And then we got our flip phones, razor phones, and then in 2007 we have our first smartphone. What people fail to realize is that our smartphones are not just a phone anymore, it's actually a supercomputer. So we are actually housing more information sometimes, more private, personal, important data in our phone than we do in our actual like home computers now. So, you know, we definitely hear from, some practitioners that we were meeting with, are providing this education, and they say, yes, that's great, and I'll take it back to my clients, but I'm pretty technology savvy and I've got, pretty strong passwords. But sometimes it's kind of like a false sense of security though, just because there are other ways that perpetrators are getting into accounts and things like that. So some of this hopefully will help keep all of you safe as well. Um, so 1 in 3 of us will be a victim of online crime in the next 5 years. And I say that just because, this could be phishing scam, identity theft, ransomware, hacking of private networks, internet fraud, cyber stalking. I just had one of my colleagues who was in New York City with his friends, had his phone stolen, and somehow they got into his phone, even though it was locked, and was able to get everything from his phone. Like they got into his social security number, they got into his Venmo, everything. They got everything. I don't know how they did it, but it's very real. So there are a number of ways that these perpetrators of these crimes can gain access to our devices to carry out these attacks. The first and most obvious way that perpetrators are hacking into our accounts is through weak passwords. So they don't necessarily break in, they're not hacking in technology-wise, they are just logging in, right? So what you see in those Hollywood movies when hackers are, pounding away on the keyboard and little bits and bytes are flashing across the screen, that's usually like a Hollywood depiction. It's actually, with the amount of security in place these days, it is very hard to actually hack into a computer, especially with, the level of, encryption and stuff like that. So what people are doing are actually like finding weak points in passwords. So again, clients and their co-parents may have been close at one point. Again, they sort of know passwords that they could guess. A lot of people have one password that they use for everything, or something that they could very easily guess. Or again, they could guess their security questions. A lot of people use dictionary words in their passwords. Those are very easy to hack, and anyone can do it. You can go into Google, you can type in free password cracker, and these are free programs that will actually take a dictionary, run it forward and backward until it cracks the password, basically. It usually takes less than 4 minutes. And in password spraying, hackers will actually take a few common passwords to attack multiple accounts on any given single website or application. So common passwords like 123 456, those are low hanging fruit, like password or welcome or things like that. This type of attack will likely allow that hacker to access hundreds of accounts on a major platform. Um, so what we usually suggest is, instead of using a dictionary word that you can, find like banana or chair or something like that, you would actually take a phrase or song lyrics or something that's meaningful to you, but use the first letter of each of those words, like I drive a white car. Take the first letter of each of those words and then use a number that makes sense for you and your special character. And now you have your very strong password that is not dictionary present, and that will hopefully be very, very less likely to be hackable, basically. So that's something that we definitely suggest for both clients and for yourselves in your personal lives as well. So you can avoid some of these weak password type of things. And then phishing, that obviously has become a lot more prevalent since COVID, right? And I'm sure most of you are getting these phishing emails, left and right, right? Here's an example of a phishing attempt. It looks pretty legitimate at first glance, right? Like PayPal. A lot of us have PayPal. I have a PayPal account. But taking a closer look at these, there are some red flags. First, they haven't used a name here. PayPal customer is very generic. It's likely that this email has been sent to many people. This attacker has also used a time frame, so 24 hours to solve the problem in order to evoke that sense of urgency. If you look closely, there are some spelling mistakes. And then the one thing that I always look for first, actually, is kind of less obvious, but still very important, is to look at the actual email address of the sender. This will often be a random mix of letters and numbers, but sometimes they do look legitimate. But this one in the example here, they're using, they could use like a 0 instead of an O, or vice versa, or an L instead of an I. So definitely take a really close look at that email address, or if you're ever in doubt, don't even click on anything and just log in directly into your PayPal account or whatever it is and check for any notifications there, obviously. Like our Family Wizard, we've gotten some where it's like our Farmily Wizard, like they throw in an R where it doesn't exist. So things like that. So just to be aware of that. If it's ever something that you think that you do need to open, or like it's like kind of a gray area, there are these programs out there that you can actually run things through. So this one is called VirusTotal. So you can run it through VirusTotal. It's free. You can actually just drag and drop the email or the attachment, and it will run it through 38 known antivirus programs around the world to see if it's harmful or not. You just have to copy and paste the link or drag it and drop into that search bar. And so that can be really helpful.
Mm.
Spoof calling. So definitely something to be aware of. People are using this a lot more now. We're definitely hearing about a lot more of these examples of spoof calling. So spoof calling is basically a phone number spoofing Either the caller ID can display a phone number or other information to make it look like the calls are coming from a different person. And then they can also, change their voice, alter their voice to make it sound, either switch it from male to female, female to male. They can add background noises like sporting event or nightclub. So there are different ways that people are using this technology to sort of spoof their victims. Um, Here's an example. AI scammers can wreak havoc with a voice clone, like people calling to ask for help. I know my grandmother was, called basically, and one of my cousins is basically saying like, "Hey, it's me, Cole. I need help. I'm stuck in jail. Like, can you bail me out of jail?" It's like things like that where she almost was fooled. It was very close. And so these are things like you definitely have to be aware of. Um, and they can also clone our voices now. So basically, when we get a phone call from a strange number, like a toll-free number, what do we mostly do, right? We let it go to voicemail. I always do that too, actually. So that's exactly what offenders want you to do. All the hacker needs is to get a copy of your voicemail with as little as 3 words. They can clone your voice and become you. So a suggested fix for this is to use your automated voicemail or have a friend or family member or coworker record your voicemail for you. That way, your voice is not on your voicemail. They can't clone your voice and use it against you with your clients or your victim or anyone else. Free apps that collect your data. So have you ever wondered how phishing attackers or spoof callers are even getting your name or your email or your phone number? One way is that they could be simply just buying that information from a third-party app or website. So free web services and apps collect loads of our data every day about their users. So data collection isn't exclusive to free software either. Some paid software companies and internet providers and wireless carriers actually will do that as well. Um, if an app markets itself as free, you definitely have to be vigilant about especially free apps, right? Just because some of those free apps is usually they're collecting our data because it's usually worth more than the actual app itself, right? Because they're mining it they're selling it right away or they're mining it for a future sale. So here are some examples of everyday communication apps and what they're collecting, all because people don't necessarily read the terms and conditions. So these are some of the big ones, Facebook Messenger, WeChat, Snapchat, Google Duo, WhatsApp, Zoom. So these are definitely some programs that are this is just what they're collecting. I'm not necessarily saying that they're selling it necessarily, but they could be. So some people might not be bothered by this, but when your privacy is your safety and your safety is your privacy, you may not want your location being given away because you're in a DV situation where this information is very important to keep safe and secure. So definitely something to just think about for especially victims and survivors. And to definitely read the terms and conditions for any, like, especially free apps. Um, the Internet of Things. So the reality is that apps and smart devices, both free and paid, have become basically synonymous with modern life. So we rely heavily on our apps and smart devices for our everyday living, right? Just this morning, I got an alert from my child's daycare, through an app. We all have our Ring doorbells and we get alerts every day for that. So all of these devices, all of these apps, make up something that is called the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things, or IoT, is a network of interrelated devices that connect and exchange data with other IoT devices and the cloud. IoT devices can monitor and automate many parts of our day-to-day life. These are just some of, examples of IoTs. So smart home appliances, fridges, TVs, vacuum cleaners, even toasters, coffee makers, they're all smart now. Connected security, doorbells, cameras, alarm systems, even healthcare. So fitness trackers, baby monitors, pacemakers. All of these things, or most of these things, usually require a companion app to be downloaded in order to use that product. everyone is, usually quick to download the app because they want to use their new gadget, right? I'm guilty of it. But most people don't read or care about the privacy policy or the terms and conditions. And this is exactly what the companies are sort of hoping for, right? Electronically stored information is sort of what this is all comes down to, right? So all of this data that gets collected by these devices is electronically stored communication or electronically stored information. So this is nothing new. It was legally defined in 2006. All of these tech words that we hear every day in our cases, the 2006 amendments to the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure includes ESI as a new legally defined term. And today, the legal world considers the discoverability of ESI, such as emails and whatnot, to be commonplace, right? So information created, manipulated, communicated, stored, and best utilized in digital form, and it requires the use of computer hardware and software. ESI is found on any device that has electrical, digital, magnetic, wireless, optical, or electromagnetic capabilities, including PDAs, cell phones, digital cameras, GPS devices, hard drives, thumb flash drives, servers, tablets, and computers. Personal information should be kept private. So there is more personal information, like I mentioned, kept in your phone than your own home typically. So many personal details in your pocket, passwords, financial data, medical information. Yet most people don't use an antivirus program on their phones. I know Stephen, my colleague, currently uses Avast, which is free. But it's very safe and secure. This can prevent someone from remotely installing software to your device, which we're going to cover that in just a moment. But I do want to play a short video for you. So this is an example of a case that actually my colleague Stephen became pretty close with the victim survivor. She actually went on a speaking tour with Stephen, and he knows her really well. So this is, one of these real world examples that we're talking about. So they were not intimately, related. This is not IPV related, but this is an example of, what we're talking about here. So I'm just going to play this and then we'll talk about it after.
It seemed like a harmless friend request. But with that one click of the mouse, Kristen Pratt opened the door to a nightmare.
We need to talk face to face, or I'm gonna be dead!
And set in motion a 2-year ordeal that placed her in constant fear for her life. Kristen was a college student in Florida when she was contacted through Facebook by Patrick Mashoni, a classmate from high school, living in the same town, looking to catch up.
I didn't even notice he was in the class with me. It wasn't until later when I went to college that I got a Facebook message from someone who said they were in this class, and that would be Patrick. First couple of messages were great, just like two friends or two people just catching up. Then after the first 3 or 4 messages, things got excessive. The messages got very weird.
Why do I like you? I don't know. Because you sat in a class and did this. I have no idea why I like you. I don't even know you.
When this starts going on, you're just kind of thinking, all right, it'll go away. But it doesn't go away. It just keeps going and gets worse.
I've been sent on a mission to make Kristen Pratt feel warm and fuzzy.
Kristen knew she needed help.
When I first called the police, they said, well, does he know where you work? And I said, no. And they said, does he know where you live? And I said, no. And they said, nothing we can do. And they left.
Email me today. It's up to you now. Save your own life.
The cyber stalking intensified.
You don't want me for a life, Kristen Pratt? That's a very, very unwise decision.
Many of his messages involved twisted fantasies.
I want to tie your wrists together, strip you naked, secure your arms above your head, blindfold you.
Other posts made Kristen's blood run cold.
Don't make me do something stupid.
She finally got an injunction.
Did he ever abide by the injunction?
No.
Whatever you want, whatever makes you happy, that's what I want.
It didn't matter how many legal things I did or anything. He just saw it as an obstacle in his way that he had to overcome. And he would overcome them every time. He would just be like, hey, I'm here.
I'm here, I'm not going anywhere.
According to him, if we're supposed to be together, none of this is wrong.
All right, Kristen, look, all I'm asking, so let me over one night. You can't keep ignoring me. You can't.
Mashoni started showing up at Kristen's work and on the campus of her college. Desperate, she began altering her appearance in hopes that he wouldn't find her.
How often were you changing your look?
Probably once every 2 months, maybe even more than that sometimes.
Ever get up one day, leave the house, and think to yourself, this could be my last day. This could be the day Patrick actually does me harm.
All the time.
Quit wasting my time.
I knew it was just a matter of time.
Look me in the eye and talk to me like a person.
Then, an unexpected turn. While on patrol, Sergeant Mark Conway spotted Mashoni with a backpack acting suspicious. Mike Hallfeld from our Orlando affiliate WKMG caught up with Conway.
I thought I had a car burglar, and when I opened the backpack, I thought I would find maybe stolen car stereos or GPSs in there.
Instead, he found Mashoni's camera and was treated to a frightening glimpse inside the stalker's dark obsession.
Oh man, please just listen to me. I never wanted to be mean or say anything mean.
You know, the videos worried me, and he kept referring to this girl named Kristen. I had no idea who she was.
A quick search of Mashoni's record and Sergeant Conway found injunctions, police reports, and Kristen.
I get a phone call from Sergeant Conway, and he's asking me these questions, and he's wanting to know what's going on. And so I tell him the whole story. And he said, "This man's gonna kill you." And he said, "That's what I've been trying to tell everybody, but nobody wants."
Frightening. So this is a little bit of an older case, like 2010 through 12-ish, in Florida. Kristen went to 2 different courthouses asking for help, trying to get a protection order. The one that they referenced in the video was her 17th attempt. She was turned away 16 different times before she got her very first injunction for protection. She went to 3 different law enforcement agencies, her university, even a local DV program begging for help, but she was told stuff like, you know, we have no jurisdiction on the internet. It says freedom of speech. There's no circumstance for bodily harm, things like that. I mean, hopefully things have kind of caught up now since then. But just, you know, kind of a glimpse into how things were at that time, and hopefully things have improved somewhat, but I see some heads shaking a little bit, so maybe not. So definitely something to be aware of. And yeah, these things could still be definitely happening. So I think he actually ended up doing time. They did actually arrest him, and I think he served, I want to say it was 3 years in jail for that. But I do think that he is out now. So she is likely, you know, having to worry about this, you know, the rest of her life, which is very sad and scary. But here are some other cyberstalking statistics. So first statistic, 66% of female and 41% of male stalking victims are stalked by a current or former intimate partner. 1 in 4 victims report being stalked through the use of some form of technology, such as email or instant messaging. And then 10% of victims report being monitored with GPS, and 8% report being monitored through video, digital cameras, or listening devices. So for the first one, for the most part, that's true. That doesn't always have to be intimate. Like the example we just saw, you know, you could have your website up too with like your bio and your team photos, like meet our staff. You know, anyone can become fixated on any one of us for any number of reasons, right? I like your hair, I like your glasses. You know, online dating, that's sort of exposing ourselves in other ways. You know, the second one, why is that only 1 out of 4? Many times people don't know that some of these things are happening, right? Like I mentioned, so you're not going to see an app when there's like a stalking app, you know, like remember the whole mental health issue, like, oh, they're just crazy. I think they know my location. They keep turning the lights off and on. It's going to seem like they're going crazy, right? But it could very well be these examples of technology related abuse, right? They're going to talk about it like it's happening, but not really know how it's happening. And again, the last one, 10%, 8%, that's not very high of a percentage, but they might not know that this is really happening. They could have a tile or an AirTag or something under their car, spyware on their phone. These are all things, or AirPods too. They might not know that they're still attached to the perpetrator. In terms of statistics, more than half of adults have experienced monitoring and controlling behavior as a form of technology facilitated abuse. There's an example from Dr. Asher Flynn who talks about unintended consequences of the tools that we rely on, such as shared calendars, being used to track where someone goes. This is really common in co-parenting relationships. Also, in co-parenting situations, interactions relating to the child, such as handovers, may provide opportunities for an abuser to install spyware on a victim's phone, or they might manipulate the child to facilitate abuse, such as sharing the victim's password, using tablets to track location as well. So now we're just going to take a look at spyware, just because that is one of the most common tools used to facilitate cyber stalking in especially intimate partner relationships. So when you Google, how do I stalk my partner? This is typically the #1 tool being used and suggested. So mSpy is probably the biggest one that's being used out there. Their tagline is how to unlock their digital world, or help you unlock their digital world, find out the truth, rest a little easier. So it's marketed as a parental control, but unfortunately is commonly used in these DV situations. So the user can see where their victim has been, where they're going, who they've called, what they've searched for, read their social media chats, review their text, see their photos. It's really everything on their phone, all without being detected. So this is what the dashboard looks like when they first log in, either from a cell phone or a web browser. They can see all of the highlights here in terms of who they've been messaging and calling. But then again, this is, sort of a duplicate of their phone, right? So it shows in real time where they are, where the victim survivor is. It allows the offender to set up geofences so they can see, essentially put parameters on where the victim can go. And if they go outside of that geofence, they will be notified basically that they're outside of that area where they're supposed to be. Text, not only showing who they're messaging, but what they're sending, their calendar. So any meetings with their attorney, their, law enforcement, dates with new partners, things like that, moving dates, photographs that they're uploading, browser history, so they can see if they're looking for a new apartment, new job. So even if they're still together, this can be a way for perpetrators to see, like, hey, are they planning on leaving? Again, this can also, lead to increased abuse or lethality. Emails, they can see all of that information. So they don't have to wait for discovery. They can see in real time the conversation between their victim and their attorney. They can also remotely activate their microphone and camera. So how do you have a confidential conversation with your client when you think that their phone is being tapped in this way? One thing that we do suggest, if you think that their phone is compromised, is using airplane mode. So airplane mode disables the ability for data to come in and out, right? So you can, commonly used when you're flying to keep you safe on the airplane. But this can also be used in these situations too. So basically, one great way that you can do this is meet them at a store, somewhere like Target, grocery store, department store, somewhere where they could feasibly be for over an hour or for the time frame that you need to meet. Once you've met them there, they can turn their phone into airplane mode, go to the police station or go to your meeting point, and then bring them back to that place and then turn it back on. And that way they can say, hey, I was there the whole time, or my phone just, I didn't have any reception inside the store, that sort of thing. So it basically, if the information were to suddenly stop, or if it were to, show where they had gone to the police station, obviously that would be a red flag to the perpetrator, but this really just kind of like turns that off. So how do offenders even get the spyware onto the phone? So a couple of different ways that they can do this. So Like I mentioned, during a parenting exchange, they can ask to use the bathroom, they can swipe the co-parent's phone off the counter, take it with them. Even if it's password protected, they can still install spyware. So all phones have the ability to make an emergency call when it's locked. But they can also use, during that lock mode, they can also use it to call any toll-free numbers as well. So what they can do is call the 1-800 number for MSpy. They will give them a PIN number, they put it in, and then it downloads the program to the phone. There's no app, it just hides in the files section in the back end of the phone. This can also be done through the cloud. So those clouds are very easy to hack if they have the, co-parents username, password, security questions, all of that. So if they can get into their cloud, they can install it there. Another couple of ways that they can do it is illustrated by this short video too. So this is a video on YouTube of another offender helping out other offenders. Again, they empower each other many times. So I'll just play this video, which is also kind of hard to listen to at points, but I'm going to play it. Oops.
Hey guys, in this video I'm going to explain 2 very effective methods on how to install MSpy without having the target device in your physical possession. One method entails trickery and a little convincing on your part. The second method is the easiest way, being that there is a reliable company who will install the software onto the target device for you. Okay, so the first method of installing MSpy without having the target device in your possession is to make a spoof call. Now, a spoof call allows you to disguise your phone number as anything you want it to be on the receiving end's caller ID. You have to do it through a website, and the one I used is called bluffmycall.com. I spoof called my girlfriend, disguising my number on her caller ID as Verizon's 1-800 number, and I opened up with this. This is how I spoke to her as a Verizon representative. I said, "Hi Jenna, this is Jason from Verizon Wireless, and we kind of have a pretty urgent matter on our hands that we need to take care of right now. Basically, there is a security breach on your phone, leaving critical info exposed, such as your bank info, your credit card info, passwords, to accounts you handle through your phone, etc. If you have 2 to 3 minutes, we just need to do a browser reset and you'll be fine. The phone will be fine. If not, we'll have to completely shut your phone off and deactivate it, then send you a refurbished one after you mail us the one you have." So of course she agreed to taking 2 to 3 minutes to remove this security breach, but really what I was doing was giving her the steps to install MSpy onto her own damn phone. And she did it without having a single clue, like legit. And the way you install MSpy, by the way, is by opening the target device's browser and entering a link that MSpy gives you. From there, you basically just wait for the software to finish installing on the phone that you're trying to monitor. It's really that simple. So moving on to the second method for installing MSpy without physically having the target device, and the one I wish I had known before I did all that work, is using a reliable, credible company, aka SpyWiz, who are based in Florida, and they will install MSpy for you without even having to talk to the owner of the target device. They install it remotely, and believe it or not, it is 100% legal. I don't know how, but it is. You simply provide them with the phone number you want to monitor, and they put MSpy on to they install MSpy onto the target device. After they're done, they will email you a link, which is a link to your dashboard. And your dashboard is where you will be able to monitor everything on the target device from.
Okay. Yeah. So there are other ways to have that installed. So finding the spyware. So how or what are the signs that a device has been infected with spyware? So the camera. So spyware will, use your camera's phone and microphone, like I mentioned. So that light will come off and on without being actually turned on by the person that's actually there using the phone. So that could be a red flag, right? Performance issues like a sudden decline in the phone's performance, long freezes, long loading time, system bugs, quick battery drainage. That could also be like a sign of a phone just naturally getting old. But if it is very sudden, it could be a sign of the spyware. overheating, unusual messages or frequent error messages, unfamiliar files or apps, noises like beeping noises, distant voices, static, things like that. That can also be like a red flag of spyware as well. Removing the spyware. So by design, spyware and stalkerware are hard to detect. They can be just as hard to remove, but not impossible. So spyware, especially in the case of stalkerware, some attackers will receive an alert warning them that the device has been cleaned up. So should that flow of information suddenly stop, that could be another clear sign to the attacker that that has been removed. So if you have any fear that this could cause more abuse or lethality, I would say don't tamper with the device, and instead reach out to police and supporting agencies. But if this is after the fact and safety is not an issue at the moment, you can always run a malware scan. There are, mobile antivirus solutions available that can detect and remove spyware. That's the easiest way, but it might not be effective in every case. Some phone like T-Mobile or Verizon or the bigger carriers will help sometimes. There are dedicated spyware removal tools, but just make sure that it's reputable. Some of those are actually, if it's not reputable, it may be like malware packaged or disguised as antivirus software, which is another issue that you don't want to deal with. Deleting any suspicious apps, check the device administration. So check to see if any suspicious apps have been administered permission levels. And so if so, you can try to remove that. Rebooting in safe mode. So restarting your smartphone in safe mode will prevent any third-party software from operating. On Android handsets, you can usually do this by long pressing the power off button and selecting safe mode. Update your operating system. That's kind of obvious, but sometimes when an operating system releases a new version, it can come with security patches, which that can sometimes help. If all else fails, sometimes a factory reset is the option, or if that doesn't help, sometimes you just need to junk the device basically, or abandon it. Unfortunately, some stalkerware devices may survive those factory resets. So, again, failing all of that just getting rid of the device, wiping it clean first. But sometimes it can follow the cloud even as well. So I would say definitely like work with the carrier to figure out like what needs to happen there. One of the free antivirus anti-malware programs that we discussed initially was called Avast One. This is a program that can help, prevent an offender from remotely installing that spyware. If it recognizes the spyware, it will show you this and it will like give you that alert basically. Have your client screenshot this because you may need that later as evidence in your criminal case. So this is, they have a free version for Avast, which is safe and secure, but they do have a paid version as well. Social media. I know we're kind of running out of time, so I'm just going to kind of, cruise through this a little bit. So there are, hundreds, thousands of social media platforms now. The bigger ones, obviously, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. Many of these can be used to track each other. Facebook, there's location tracking and tagging, mutual friends. Instagram, the visual nature here makes it easier to follow someone's life through their posts and stories. Check-ins that can provide real-time information about their location. Twitter, which is now X, tweets and retweets can give insights into a person's thoughts and activities. Snapchat, there's a Snap Map, which that is a feature that allows people to see each other's locations. LinkedIn, while that's primarily a professional networking site, that can also be used to track someone's career movements and connections. Reddit, that's a little more anonymous, but that can really help, still monitor specific subreddits and, insights into their interests and opinions. Fortnite, that's also, a game. But, for example, if the perpetrator has a no contact order and can't talk to their children, but they know that they get on Fortnite every day at, 4 p.m., they can get on Fortnite and still be able to talk with their child. through that way. So that's another way that people are using that. Snapchat, again, that's, seen in some domestic abuse cases where an offender will send a picture of, like, say, a gun or a weapon and say, like, if you don't drop charges, I'll harm you or hurt you. If I don't get custody, something's going to happen to you. They think that they're safe because the messages will disappear, right? And you may not want to do a screenshot of these harmful pictures because that will notify the sender through Snapchat that you've taken a screenshot. So how do you get this evidence? So according to Snapchat, all the photos sent through the app are deleted, but that's not necessarily the case. Forensic experts have a way to uncover the element of the app's code that simply buries the photos, videos, and chats deep within the device. So you can actually go into the phone files and find some evidence there. So just so if you ever have a case, there might be a way to uncover some of those snaps.
Yeah, Rachel, I just wanted to interrupt just for a minute. I know we're approaching 1 o'clock and this is
Yeah.
just such great information. And I think we are going to take you up on doing a deeper dive on any one of these topics because this is
Yeah.
such important information personally and then professionally for our clients as well. The
Yeah.
next code that we have is social. So the first code was technology and the second code is social. So, so that's that. So Rachel, I think we're kind of, it's approaching 1. So
Yeah,
see, well, it's just so much information.
I know there's a lot. Yeah, we didn't even get into, like, there's locations and photos, there's all of that metadata, GPS trackers. So we can definitely pick this up the next time we meet.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we can do like an OFW update.
Is
So
there
yeah,
interest in the participants that we see here to kind of do a more in-depth dive? I think, yeah, we can certainly schedule that.
okay. Perfect. Yeah, definitely. We can definitely schedule that. And then yeah, definitely I will just post my contact information if you have any. I see that there was some
Yeah, there were some
questions.
questions in the chat. Maybe we
Yeah.
can, well, from Sally, for the cyber stalking examples, does the victim have the burden of proof of emotional harm? That was a question. I don't know if you can answer that or not.
Yeah, I would assume so, but I would need to double check on that.
Yeah. And the safest way to record all your passwords.
There are like password protection programs out there. I know we use one called 1Password. That one is really safe and secure. I would suggest that one.
Yeah. Also, Norton has, I use a Norton password manager and I think it's safe. But the thing I think, this kind of information is just sort of like so technical and not something I think that we can really do ourselves. So for me, I'd be more interested in like what resources could we go to help us with our clients in this situation, kind of thing. Because I don't think, well, I'm speaking for myself, but I actually worked for IBM. I can't keep all this stuff straight. So I'm not sure if other people can either. So just for you to know that we need to know it, but we need to know who can help us with it when we have a situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did give you in the handouts a tip sheet. So this is put together by my colleague Stephen. So this is really kind of going through all of the main tips to go through with your client to just double check, like, hey, have you checked your cell phone settings? Have you done all of the safety planning that I mentioned? And if you do have any specific questions about safety planning or technology related crimes, feel free to reach out to me and I can get that over to Stephen. He's really our expert when it comes to that. And then in terms of like resources too, like if you have a specific thing that you're looking for, definitely reach out and I can try to point you in the right direction. I mean, there are so many different, like what if you're having an issue with cell phones versus, something else, like it could be a totally different resource. So I think as these come up, just feel free to reach out to me and I can help
Mhm.
point you in the right direction. Just because
Was there a link in the chat to,
Yeah,
okay, because I came in a little bit late, so
yeah,
I'm just,
so Sally, I think we have some materials from this program that's going to be distributed, and
okay.
and so for all attendees, please fill out an evaluation, the CE credit form as explained in today's email. The CLE COAs will be sent in an inclusive email that you can print off as a PDF. And again, the materials for this program will be available. We're trying to see if we're going to have maybe the opportunity to see some of these slides to share them, and potentially the recording. But also another opportunity, I'm going to be in discussion with Rachel about maybe further deeper dives into any one of these topics, because it really lends itself to a much fuller discussion for sure. So please watch your email and check the calendar for dates for our fall schedule, virtual pod and support group meetings, as well as collaborative connection lunches, as well as our gala, yay, on December 4th at Brayburn. So I hope everyone is registered. It's going to be an amazing, awesome event. So we hope to see you. Thank you so much, Rachel, for your time and your expertise and the information delivered. It's just so essential and needed and so valued. So thank you so much. And thanks again, everyone, for joining us. Enjoy your weekend, and thanks. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.